Hey guys, my name is Eric Lay, and I'm a professional League of Legends coach for Elventus. Having been a top challenger player for the last few years, I'm here to share with you some top strategies my students use to consistently play at higher levels each game. If you're looking to make some serious improvements this year, make sure to join our Discord channel where top-ranked experts, including myself, will be offering free coaching sessions to our new YouTube community. This is our second video, so please share this video with your friends if you like the stuff we're putting out. I think it's really important you go into each game really focused. So often I see a lot of players, they go into the games feeling really distracted, whether they're checking their messages on their phone because their friends texting them to hang out, or maybe their family's about to call them down for dinner. I think it's really important that you deal with whatever messages, notifications, emails, work calls you got to take before you start a game. So that way, once you get into that game or once you start to queue up, you can completely turn off your phone or put in do not disturb and face down so you don't have any flashing lights and anything distracting you there. The other thing I tell my students to do is to actually just close all social media tabs. If you're gonna have Discord open, put it on do not disturb. If you have two monitors, turn your second monitor off or close all social media apps on that second monitor and only have important tools on that second monitor. Maybe it's like an OPGG of some stats, or maybe it's some like pro builds or some u.gg stats, like making sure that the second monitor is only for valuable information and has no notifications, nothing that might pop up randomly and just distract you. Just make sure you take care of your business beforehand, and then once the game starts, you're completely locked in. Am I hungry? Am I thirsty? Am I tired? Do I need to go to the washroom? Do I need to stretch? Do I need to do something in an hour or less? I think if you can sort of go through that simple checklist and be like, do I have all of these things taken care of? Yes or no? If you didn't take care of all of these, you should take care of it. I know this sounds super basic and you're like, Eric, like, why are you telling me these things? But I think it's just something that seems like common sense, but I mean, I don't know how many times my students, my friends, or myself have just gone into games just really not thinking about the most basic of things, and then halfway through the game you're just like super anxious, like, can we just get this game over with? And once you start rushing the games, you're going to start over diving, you're going to start not really calculating your plays, and you're not going to be thinking about the next move, the next play you can be making, but you're just thinking about, man, how long is it going to take before I can finally go to the washroom? Making sure you take care of all these distractions is really important. So definitely ask yourself, am I hungry? Am I thirsty? Am I tired? Do I need to go to the washroom? Do I need to stretch? Do I need to do something in an hour less? And if the answer is yes to any of those questions, then you got to take care of that before you actually start the game. And that way, you can really go into each game super focused and disciplined. Oftentimes I see players, they just go into games with their mind completely turned off. They have no objective, no purpose, no goal. They're just sort of like coasting through on autopilot. I think it's very common to have players, they just want to play League to sort of like escape from the day-to-day realities of life. If you're just playing League to escape and you're not actually focusing on things that you can be improving on, the chances of you actually improving and playing well are going to be much lower. Just putting that conscious effort to set a clear objective or goal before you actually start the game, it's really going to help you get the most out of every single game you play. Just to give you guys some examples of things you could be focusing on, a lot of times, people would just focus on winning. I think that's just way too big and not specific enough, because if you don't have a specific goal, you're going to end up getting distracted very easily. If you're trying to focus on winning, there's thousands of different things you could be doing, and if you want to get better at 1,000 things at once, you might get better at a bunch of different things by a tiny bit, but after you get distracted really quickly, you're going to forget everything that you learned and you were working on. Be as specific as possible in terms of what you want to focus on and finding some clear objective to work towards when you get into game. So yeah, like some examples that you could choose could be, this game I really want to focus on increasing my APM. I want to make sure that I do everything I can as an ADC player to average more clicks per second. You can even track this, because if you are really focused on that one goal, it's going to be very easy to figure out the steps you're going to need to take to improve on that goal. Maybe when you go into games, you struggle a lot with team coordination and team communication. So maybe for like one game or for the next 10 games, you can really focus on how you can improve your team coordination. And if you focus only on that, I can promise you that you're going to actually improve on that skill. Now, if you want to have a more broad sense of focus, you can do that, but I would really caution against doing something too broad, because you don't want to be that jack of all trades and master of none, because the way you really achieve mastery and success, especially in a game like League, is to get to a point where you can master one or two skills and then layer more and more on top of it. So going back to talking about increasing your focus before the game, it's going to be a lot easier for you to improve your focus when you actually have a clear objective rather than sort of bouncing around from idea to idea. One thing I find a lot of people really do understand, they understand the importance of working out your body. You know, you put your muscles under stress, you know, you lift some heavy weights, and then now your muscles are all sore. And what your body tells you is like, okay, my muscles are sore. I need to strengthen these muscles so that next time I lift the same weight, I'll be strong enough to lift it. So most people understand how important it is to, you know, work out, strengthen your muscles. But what I find, especially in the gaming community, is that not many people are actually thinking about the importance of training your mind. When the crazy thing is that, you know, your mind is what controls every single action of your body, especially in a game like League of Legends, where, you know, it's such a mental game and everything comes down to like how smart and how quickly you can make the right decisions. You know, learning how to train your mind to improve your focus, improve that mental resilience and toughness, like that is one of the most important skills in the game. For me, one of the techniques and, you know, training tools I like to use for my students and myself to actually increase my focus and do that mental training is through a lot of breathing exercises and techniques. I think one thing that's starting to become a lot more popular these days are mindfulness and meditation practices. There are a lot of scientific benefits of meditation and mindfulness practices, and we can probably cover that in a later video. So there's a lot of important, you know, scientific benefits of, you know, mindfulness and meditation practices that will really help you improve your focus, but, you know, we can go more in detail in a different video. One thing I would like to recommend for you guys is to start, you know, trying to do a few breathing techniques before the games. So one thing you can try is just doing a few simple breathing exercises, even just doing 5 simple big deep breaths, you know, in through the nose, slowly holding it at the top and releasing that air in like 5 to 10 seconds. That's something that can really help calm yourself. I would recommend you to even try it out right now, and more often than not, you'll find yourself getting into, you know, a more positive mindset. Just getting that blood flow into your system is really just going to help, you know, release a lot of the stress that you might be having from previous games, and helps you also mentally reset. When I think about what meditation and mindfulness really is, it's learning how to sit still with your thoughts and get into a state of nothingness. If you can focus on nothing, when you get into game and you have all these different crazy things happening at once, you know, when you have all these skill shots to think about, all these abilities, you're trying to keep track of all these different champions at the same time, you're going to have a lot of mental clutter. But if you can go back to that place of focus and peace you've been practicing, or that you did in the warm-up before the game, from that simple breathing or meditation exercise, it'll help you have a lot of that clarity and focus so that you can make the right decisions when you're under pressure. I think it's really important that you spend some extra time before the game actually starts to research some of the matchups and actually understand, you know, the damage numbers of different champions you're playing against and you're playing with. Even understanding some of the cooldowns, some of like the item paths, the builds, you know, just doing that pre-game research is going to help you a lot, so that once you get into the game, you can just stay 100% focused on what matters, which is the present moment of how you're playing. A lot of times I'll see people go into game and they'll start asking questions either in their head or to their friends or to their teammates, like, oh, what do I build? Oh, like, what's his cooldown of his ultimate? And, you know, how much damage does he do? But if you just put in that extra work before the game starts to actually, you know, research some of the numbers, you know, going on sites like, you know, u.gg, ProBuilds, League Wiki, or LOL Wiki, stuff like that, it's really going to help you be able to focus a lot harder on the quality of your play and the quality of your learning once you actually get into game. I'm going to be sharing with you guys a more advanced tool that you could be using to increase your focus before the game start. Now that you sort of understand some of the foundational pieces that will help limit some of those distractions, you know, get you into the right mindset physically and mentally before the game starts, now it comes down to execution. To actually help you execute it and help you increase that level of focus once you get into game, what you can do is you could start visualizing every single thing you could be doing to actually perform at the highest of levels. If you already did the research in terms of what kind of matchups you're going to be playing against, you know, what champion you're going to be playing, what champions they're playing, and you understand what the enemy champion's typical early game goals are and late game goals are, how they like to play team fights, how they like to play lane, how they like to path in the jungle, and how your team likes to play the game out. Now you can start to visualize how you're going to interact with the enemy champions and enemy abilities. So there's so many different levels to visualization. You can try and visualize some of your mechanics. So you could try and figure out, okay, they have a Malphite on their team. You know, it's not the easiest thing to flash a Malphite out for everyone. So it's like, you know, you can visualize yourself going into a team fight and flashing the Malphite out as it comes out. And if you drill that vision into your head multiple times, when that play actually happens in the game, you've already rehearsed that play again and again. So it's going to be a lot easier and more natural for you to actually execute on that play. So that's an example of something you could do mechanically, so that when you are actually put in that position to perform under pressure, you've already practiced and visualized that play time in, time out before the game starts. You can visualize on some of the more physical aspects, some of the more mechanical aspects of the game, but you can even visualize a lot of the strategy. One thing I like to do, especially as a jungle player myself, is I like to sort of track and visualize what the enemy jungler would be doing in the first 5-10 minutes of the game. Try and get into their mindset and trying to visualize, how they want to play their game. So if you can actually visualize what they're going to do, you can now visualize some of the strategy you want to implement to counteract their strategy. And this is sort of piggybacking off of the last point we made in terms of, researching game knowledge, matchups, stuff like that. Because if you put in that work beforehand, you're going to be able to visualize a strategy for yourself that you can execute once the game actually starts. So this is my most advanced tip, I guess, when it comes down to increasing your focus before the game. It's not easy, but I'd say it's something that if you're willing to sort of implement, it's going to start to really pay dividends in terms of how much you're learning and how well you're actually performing in each game you play. So one of the things that really helps me increase my physical levels of focus during a game is to actually do some sort of warm-up exercises so that I can get my body physically ready before the games actually start. One of my favorite tools I like to use is the practice tool to sort of do some sort of CSing drill. The drill I like to do is just go for the first 5 minutes. If you want to get a perfect creep score, it would be 50 out of 50, and that's in the first 8 waves. For myself, being like a challenger player, what I want to aim for is to go for at least 47, 48, at least twice in a row. And if I can do twice in a row, 47 to 48, so I'll try and get at least 47.5 over the course of 2 in a row. And if I can't do that, then I'll keep going until I can hit that number. For someone who might be a bit less experienced in the game, you might, set a number that's a bit lower, maybe 45 or 40. But just getting yourself warmed up mechanically is going to help increase your focus so that, once the game starts, you can actually focus more on some of the more macro decision making rather than the direct mechanics. So another tool I like to use that helps me, warm up before the game starts is to actually use this tool called luldodgegame.com. Now, we aren't sponsored by them or anything. It's just they've been pretty helpful for me and some other players I've worked with. And basically, they have many mini games you can use to sort of practice your kiting mechanics, your dodging mechanics, just like making sure that you go into the game with like high APM. The more you can sort of get your body physically warmed up, the less and less distracted you're going to be by some of the physical errors you make in the game, and the more you can spend time on actually focusing on making the right decisions and making sure that you're learning from every single play that you make. Hey guys, don't just go yet. I'll be adding more of you to my friends list if you leave your IGN with some of the goals you have for the season. Don't forget to join our Discord community where the man of the hour, Eric Lay, will be offering free coaching sessions to our awesome YouTube subs. We'll be delivering new content every Saturday, so make sure to subscribe so you don't miss out. Because when you subscribe, maybe we'll get one step closer to releasing my editor from the dungeon of his mom's basement.